Yeah, we should use the force of the state to bring these wicked companies to heel and take the profits that they extracted from the bodies of children. Yes, I'm totally comfortable with that, actually.
It's a pretty slim boss watch, but I have some thoughts on the second story of two. So the first one is in South Carolina, where U.S. Department of Labor investigators found a West Columbia gas station and convenience retailer, Seymour Express, failed to pay 29 employees overtime rates as required by law. Specifically, the employer paid straight time for all hours worked and failed to pay the overtime premium of time and one-half employees' hourly rates for hours over 40 in a work week. They recovered in back wages and liquidated damages $153,000 for 29 workers. That is an insane amount of theft that you can only do if you're a boss. That's the, you can only steal 150 grand from dozens of people if you're a boss. That's just crazy. The Wage and Hour Division Director, Jamie Benefiel in Columbia, South Carolina, said the U.S. Department of Labor is committed to ensuring workers get every dollar they earned. Failing to pay the proper rate for all of the hours employees work is a violation employers can and must avoid. We encourage employers with questions to reach out to us for compliance assistance and for help understanding their obligations to their employees. And then the second story is out of Alabama. This is coming from AL.com, where they say that federal investigators say they found 6 underage workers at a large poultry plant in North Alabama and are asking a judge to stop the sale of chicken produced with child labor. Lawyers representing the plant in Jasper say the move is unprecedented and would create undue hardship for the more than 1,000 workers at Marjack Poultry, the largest employer in Walker County. Attorneys for the U.S. Department of Labor filed a civil action against Marjack on May 7th to stop the production and sale of all goods tainted with child labor through May 31st. On May 1st, 2024, investigators with the Wage and Hour Division, U.S. Department of Labor, discovered oppressive child labor at defendants' processing facility, namely children working on the kill floor, deboning poultry and cutting carcasses, the court documents said. The children had been working at the facility for months, and the defendant continually removed goods from the facility the entire time. And now they're referencing this because there is a provision in child labor laws that allow the Department of Labor to stop the sale of products tainted with child labor. That's one of the provisions of child labor law, and why child labor laws is to a certain extent, there are more options for enforcement than with other labor laws, because actually stopping the sale of goods produced with child labor is a pretty big penalty. So attorneys for Marjack Poultry said in court filings that the employees had used forged documents, passed the E-Verify system, and were terminated after their real ages came to light. The lawyers also said the teens were not employed in hazardous areas and worked in areas hanging chickens and removing wings, which do not require the use of heavy machinery. The operations where the children worked resembled a commercial kitchen more than a kill floor, the company claimed. Obviously, the Department of Labor is disputing that. But the Department of Labor announced last year, and still reading from AL.com, that it would use the hot goods provision that I was talking about earlier to prevent companies from profiting from child labor. The company argued that forcing the temporary pause in chicken sales would hurt other workers. A 30-day hot goods injunction would result in approximately 1,000 employees being laid off for 30 days, the company said in court documents. Require the destruction of millions of chickens, placing them in landfills, the destruction of 1 million pounds of meat, interrupt the delivery of feed to growers, and the delivery of birds for processing, resulting in all of the chicken house to miss a full cycle and the resulting economic disaster to the farmers, causing seismic economic consequences on the community.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Now, as far as this goes, I don't know exactly, because there's some merit to the argument about, like, okay, look, a 30-day hot goods injunction in, if you're producing like steel beams or car parts or something like that, right? It's not as if, there's not as much relation to the rest of the supply chain. Whereas a hot goods injunction on chicken, you would be wasting a lot of meat that could actually feed people, right? So, it's not as if the arguments there are totally meritless. They obviously, these arguments have nothing to do with the law, right? It's just practically, is this actually the best thing to do for the community? And so, actually disposing of 30 days of meat from the facility, I think probably does sound a little bit wasteful, but should the company be able to profit off of it? The answer is obviously no. What should happen is, they should be forced to continue the production of it without child labor and produce it and get it ready for market, and then be forced to give it away. That, I think, but I don't know if mechanically, logistically, legally, statutorily that can happen, right? I don't know if there's a mechanism by which the Department of Labor can do that. And so then the question is, if the Department of Labor can't do that, and if they can't get Marjack to agree to that, to stipulate to that, then should they just be allowed to profit off of child labor when they knew they were in violation of the law, when they knew what the consequences of the violation of the law would be? That's difficult to agree with. It's difficult to agree with the idea that Marjack Poultry should just be able to profit off of child labor when that is against the law. That's difficult to agree to. And of course, all of the disastrous economic consequences, the only thing that I can get behind as far as the merits of the argument is that wasting 1 million pounds of poultry seems like that just, I don't know. I don't like that. That doesn't sound good to me. But the rest of this, Marjack is a huge corporation. They have millions of dollars, billions of dollars, I think. Their CEO, makes millions of dollars. It does not actually have to cause a seismic economic consequence. They could continue paying the workers for 30 days of work, and they could make their growers and farmers and all of these people whole. They could do that. And if there is any mechanism at all that the Department of Labor can force them to do that, they should force them to do that. Because it is not the farmer's fault that Marjack was using oppressive child labor. It's not the farmer's fault, and they should not be penalized for it, and profits should be extracted from Marjack, salaries taken, dividends taken from people at the top and distributed to the people who were not, responsible for these, wicked deeds. That's what should happen. That's what should happen. The disastrous economic consequence does not have to happen. Marjack can and should make people whole to the extent that people will be harmed if a hot goods injunction is placed. And if they are not if they do not do that willingly or settle for that, then the Department of Labor should force them to do that. I don't know what legal mechanisms exist for such a thing, but nevertheless. AL.com goes on to say that it's not the first time Marjack has faced penalties for child labor violations. The company, which is headquartered in Georgia and has locations in Mississippi and Alabama, received fines of more than $200,000 after a 16-year-old worker in Hattiesburg, Mississippi died while cleaning machinery. 16 years old. A freshman in high school, is my understanding. A freshman in high school was killed by bosses in Mississippi. The teen was pulled into a machine in the deboning area that had not been fully deactivated, according to OSHA. And this is another reason to believe that, the company's responses to the Department of Labor and the courts, as far as like, oh no, it's not really a killing floor. It's actually super safe. It's more like a kitchen than anything else. It's so nice. It's so nice working here as a child. That's why you should not believe them, because they have had children working in these incredibly dangerous places, and they have killed children. So, right, you shouldn't believe them, obviously. Debbie Berkowitz, an expert on worker safety in poultry plants, said child labor became a big problem during the COVID pandemic when many plants lost employees. Enforcement of workplace safety regulations decreased before the pandemic, and some plants began hiring teens under the age of 18. But federal law prohibits 16 and 17-year-olds from working in most meat and poultry processing jobs. Reporting from the New York Times found that an increase in children and teens immigrating from Mexico and Central America fueled an increase in child labor. And Berkowitz said that the increase in child labor cases has pushed the Department of Labor to impose tougher penalties. In March, the agency required a Tennessee company to set aside $1.5 million in profits as punishment for using child labor. The investigation began when the agency received a tip that workers under the age of 18 were employed hanging live chickens on hooks attached to the conveyor belt, documents said. Investigators found 2 16-year-olds and 2 17-year-olds working on a floor where workers eviscerated and hung chicken carcasses. In later court filings, attorneys said 2 more underage employees had been identified. So, yeah, really disgusting stuff, and not buying the crocodile tears from the employer or their defenses about the safety of the children employed. Really gross stuff. Really, really, really gross stuff. Patrick says, force means threat of guns, bro. I don't know. Patrick is maybe presumably... presumably maybe Patrick is a libertarian. I don't know what, but yes, yes, actually, when people put children in danger, abuse children, yeah, we should use the force of the state to bring these wicked companies to heel and take the profits that they extracted from the bodies of children. Yes, yes, I'm totally comfortable with that, actually. Yes! Do it! Yes! I don't know why you would think that I would be like, oh, force means, force them means using force. Yes, Patrick, it does. It does indeed. If you want to debate about it, call in 844-899-8857, because that's just a very silly thing to say. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.